Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into the epic cinematic source material detailing the childhood and rigorous training of a 12th century legend, Prithviraj Chauhan. We're going to break down the exact elements that forged a young prince into an absolute historical titan. We're actually going to start exactly where our source material kicks off. Picture this: a golden sunrise over Ajmer Fort, saffron flags waving in the morning breeze. It's this breathtaking, totally cinematic atmosphere that drops us right into the vibrant, high-stakes world of 12th century India. It really sets the perfect stage for the making of a king. To understand how this legend was forged, we're going to follow 5 key pillars of his royal curriculum: sunrise over Ajmer Fort, cultivating the royal mind, mastering the martial arts, wisdom and true leadership, and finally, the destiny of a king. Let's get right into it.
Starting with Section 1, Sunrise over Ajmer Fort, the environment.
So, the source material places the young prince high up on a palace balcony, and he's just directly observing the seasoned Rajput warriors training down below him. I love this detail because it brilliantly illustrates that his education began simply by watching. Before he ever lifted a weapon or opened a manuscript, he was up there absorbing the atmosphere, the strict discipline, and the rhythm of the warriors protecting his kingdom. He is quite literally looking down at his future responsibilities.
That brings us to Section 2, transitioning from mere observation to intense intellectual conditioning, cultivating the royal mind, the Gurukul.
Inside the royal Gurukul, surrounded by these ancient palm leaf manuscripts, oil lamps, and carved sandstone pillars, learned teachers put the young prince through a remarkably diverse curriculum. He wasn't just learning to fight, right? He was rigorously studying Sanskrit, politics, history, diplomacy, and statecraft. Because true power in the 12th century, it absolutely required a deeply cultivated mind capable of complex, high-level strategy.
And just to really grasp the intensity of this training, it helps to remember what a royal Gurukul actually was. This was a traditional residential education system, a deeply immersive, holistic, round-the-clock environment completely dedicated to mastering the intellectual tools you'd need to govern a massive kingdom. You were living and breathing your education.
But, of course, intellectual prowess was only half the equation. Let's look at Section 3, Mastering the Martial Arts, the Body.
The cinematic prompts here reveal a highly logical progression in his physical training. It kicks off with sword fighting for close combat, then advances to archery for ranged accuracy, and finally culminates in horse riding for absolute mobility and control. Basically, every single aspect of battlefield survival was being methodically ingrained into his muscle memory.
The training throws us right into the action. Fast sword movements, flying dust, the spark and clash of wooden swords. Guided by seasoned Rajput warriors, young Prithviraj honed his close combat reflexes. And honestly, reading the source material, you can almost feel that intense, gritty energy required to survive hand-to-hand combat. Then, from the absolute chaos of the sword clash, the training shifts to pure precision. The cinematic vision focuses right on the bowstring as arrows fly through the golden sunlight, with Prithviraj demonstrating extraordinary archery skills to strike distant targets. This phase is all about establishing range superiority before the enemy can even get close. And then everything culminates in absolute battlefield mobility. Picture the prince controlling this magnificent white horse, just galloping at full speed across the harsh, beautiful deserts of Rajasthan, dust clouds trailing behind him. Total mastery of the horse meant the ability to command troops across vast, incredibly unforgiving terrains. Now, notice the perfect equilibrium required here. We've got a physical arsenal of swords and combat skills perfectly balanced against a mental arsenal of diplomacy and wisdom. Reminding ourselves of this strict balance is so essential for what happens next, because eventually, classroom theory has to meet messy reality.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 4, Wisdom and True Leadership, the character. So, a really pivotal moment occurs outside the classroom and the training grounds, when the young prince actually steps in to settle a dispute among local villagers. Rather than just using his physical might or throwing his royal authority around in a heavy-handed, tyrannical way, he relies entirely on the diplomacy and statecraft he learned back in the Gurukul. He shows wisdom well beyond his years.
By stepping in like that, he displayed immense kindness, real courage, and highly advanced leadership. Navigating a local conflict with such deep emotional intelligence totally impressed the elite royal ministers, and more importantly, it won over the common people. This was basically his proof of concept, right? It proved his real-world readiness to actually lead. All of this intense preparation culminates in our final pillar, Section 5, the destiny of a king, the future. High on the palace walls, bathed in the epic lighting of a sunset over Ajmer Fort, King Someshwara watches his son's progression with immense pride. It really brings the story beautifully full circle, doesn't it? From the sunrise of his childhood to this cinematic sunset, framing a father observing the magnificent results of all that grueling preparation.
In this exact moment, as the scene slowly zooms in, the king arrives at a powerful realization. He understands that this holistic education, the intensive studies, the relentless combat drills, the real-world tests of character, it has successfully forged Prithviraj into a young man unequivocally destined to be a great ruler. The stage is literally set for history.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a compelling thought to chew on. Physical prowess might make a warrior, but does diplomacy make a king? Think about how those two halves, the sword and the mind, came together to forge Prithviraj Chauhan. Understanding that fragile, perfect balance is the true key to unlocking his legacy. So what kind of modern leaders do you think could benefit from this exact same curriculum today? Thanks so much for joining me on this journey, and keep exploring!